What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Citizen Collection here to give you guys my journalistic viewpoints on all things hip hop, black culture, media, faith, just current events going on in the world. Recently, I've been covering a lot of the hip hop stuff going on following the release of the J. Cole album, just because it was a big thing in media, a big thing in culture, a big thing in music. And I've really been enjoying doing that. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe, leave some comments. Tell me your thoughts. I love the engagement. I love talking to you guys in the comments. Also, check out my page. There's a link for merch. Check that out as well. Today, we'll be going over something that I find very interesting, and it's kind of piggybacking off of one of my latest videos about how media darlings work and how media in general works. So today, I'll be going over the recent commentary by Ebro on his show Rap Life Review, where he discussed the difference between him, somebody like him, a professional media person having an opinion, versus a consumer or a fan having an opinion, and how what the differences are, what matters the most, how he is who he is, and how he's validated to have his opinion. I'll also be giving you guys a part two of showing you guys some behind the scenes emails and press releases that I receive as a journalist, and how that plays into some of the things that you guys see in these articles. So let's get into it. I'll start off by playing the clip first, and then I'll get into my thoughts.
Because some of y'all don't deserve a fucking opinion, because you haven't been doing this professionally, consuming, playing, and critiquing hip hop as your life. You're just a fan. And we love you. You're just a consumer. You're a customer, as we call them. That's why sometimes your opinion, customer, doesn't fucking count, because you don't fucking do this for real.
When we're measuring.
All right, so that is the small clip that I'll play. And, of course, it's stirring up a lot of stuff. This is stemming from Ebro recently saying on the same exact show that he thought Drake didn't have any classic hip hop albums. That stirred up a lot of stuff on the internet as well. First and foremost, I disagree. I think everybody knows that Drake does have some classic albums. Nothing was the same to me as a classic. Take Care is a classic. Even if I'm looking at mixtapes, probably So Far Gone. So I think now from watching this episode, Ebro is changing his stance more to, but Drake doesn't have a quote unquote hip hop classic. That's what he's arguing now. For example, he's comparing it to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, saying, that's a classic album, but he doesn't consider it a hip hop album. Right. So at that point, I think it's just tomato, whatever you prefer, what you consider hip hop. People herald Lauryn Hill as a hip hop artist. People herald Drake as a hip hop artist. Drake makes hip hop music and he makes R&B music. So in my opinion, I do understand what he's saying by the typical traditional essence of hip hop, that type of album. But if we've accepted Drake into the culture as a hip hop artist who he does sing and rap, that's just a part of his artillery. Sorry. I don't think that it's now right to kind of hold that against him and say, he's not making real hip hop albums or real hip hop music at this point, when we've already accepted him as a hip hop artist. Right. So I don't know about that personally, but I do understand both sides. I will say I do understand what he means in the traditional sense of hip hop albums. Right. And then maybe if you get into the songwriting aspect of it, of what was written by him versus what wasn't written by him, right? But that's another conversation. So I'm not here to debate that part too much. I want to get into the media aspect of this. So first and foremost, I will say that the things that I took away from Ebro's statement that he just made, I do understand some of his points. I do think that he has validity and merit to what he is saying, but I do think that his approach is wrong, and I don't fully agree with his sentiments. First and foremost, I think he comes off as entitled and arrogant in this take. He's speaking with a level of conviction that comes off as, I'm entitled to say what I want. I'm entitled to have my opinion. My opinions matter more than your opinion does. That is the tonality and the conviction in which he's speaking with, in which I think that obviously he's probably passionate about hip hop, so I can understand where that passion comes from. But I definitely think he could exercise some humility when it comes to this. I think that he is experienced. He is a veteran in this. He does have more insights and more knowledge than the average person that is just a fan of hip hop, right? But I don't think that that entitlement is valid because hip hop belongs to everybody, right? It doesn't just belong to people that are in media spaces or quote unquote professionals. Um, and I think that, you know, when I hear him speak in this manner, one, I dislike whenever people disrespect their own audience, right? Majority of people who watch his show, whether this show or when he was on Hot 97, majority of the people that listen and tune into him are just fans, as he calls them. And so if that's the case, that if most people that you're that are supporting you are just fans, you're kind of disrespecting and dismissing the opinions of your direct supporters. So to me, it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot. Um, which makes no sense to me, right? I don't think it makes sense to tell your listeners that their opinions aren't valid and yours is more valid than theirs. Uh, Now, in regards to some other reasons I disagree with him, I think that one thing I've realized as my time with being a journalist, we're not the main characters here. And this comes off as main character syndrome to me. It comes off as, hey, look at me. I have an opinion. My opinion matters. You care about my opinion. My opinion is valid. What I say matters. X, Y, and Z. I know what I'm talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Right. And the truth is that we're speaking about other people. Right. A part of why I decided that I didn't want to be a journalist for the rest of my life was because I got tired of talking about other people. I got tired of writing about other people. I started to hit a point where I realized, like, man, I'm just writing about a lot of other people, right? Which I still do it and I still enjoy to a degree, but only when I pick and choose. But if you're a person who you work at a publication full time, you just get pushed. It's literally your job. Hey, you have to write this amount of articles this week or this amount of articles today. You have to talk about this. You have to cover this, whether you want to or not. It doesn't matter. This is what we're doing. This is what we're talking about. This is how you make your living. And you get tired of I got tired of kind of just, talking about other people all the time. I realized I'm not the main character here. My pride and ego, admittedly so, my pride and ego didn't like the fact that I'm always talking about somebody else. If somebody was to write an article about me or interview me, I would be the main character. But anytime I'm writing an article about another person, a celebrity or whatever the case may be, I am not the main character in this instance anymore, right? So I think sometimes people in media, what I see, I feel like they can start to feel like they are kind of bigger than the program or that they are the main character. And they kind of lose sight of the fact that, yes, you may have a show. Yes, you may write articles. Yes, you may have a following or a platform. For sure, you do. That's what I'm trying to build here is a platform. But at the same time, uh, when you make a living off talking about other people, you are not the main character, and you need these celebrities, you need these artists, you need these rappers to talk about, right? You're not talking about yourself, which is why I try to do stuff where give my personal opinions on things, my personal journalistic backgrounds, give insight to stuff that so where I'm not solely reliant upon celebrities on this channel, or I don't need somebody to drop something for me to make a video. I can make a video about being a journalist or whatever topic I want to talk about in culture in the world. But for somebody like Ebro, who worked at a radio station, now Rap Life Review, a lot of this is contingent upon, unfortunately, not so much Rap Life Review, even though they do talk about a lot of people or whatever, but between just his career, a lot of it is contingent upon rappers and celebrities. You need them, right? They don't necessarily need you. So I think that never forgetting that you're not the main character in these instances is important, and I think that exercising that humility is important. Um, you know, Also, to another reason I disagree with this, and I'm going to get to some things that he said that I do agree with, but why I disagree with this again is I do think everybody is entitled to their opinion. Um, Everybody is entitled to their opinion. Everybody has the right to have an opinion and speak their opinion. Where I disconnect with people is everybody is entitled to an opinion, but we should not value everybody's opinion. And I think that is something that I preach to people. Find the people that you value their opinion. If not, you will get caught up in the whirlwind of social media and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and podcasts and YouTube. You're hearing so many people's other opinions that you don't even formulate your own, or you're hearing so many people's other opinions, and it is diluting your frequency of what you think, rather in a good way or a bad way. Rather it's making you like something more, or rather it's making you dislike something more. It's taken away from the purity of your own opinion and your own perspectives, right? So find people that you feel like, you know what, I value this person's opinion for whatever reasons, right? But, you know, I think that you have to earn the right for people to value your opinion. I don't think just because you're a journalist, just because you're a radio host, just because you have a platform or following, it means that people should value your opinion. And that's with anything. That is with music, sports, politics, religion, anything. Just because you get a title does not mean that people should value what you say about a certain thing. Because you can have a title and still not be good. Or have bad intentions, or have bad taste, or have bad opinions and outlooks and perspectives, or you can be so subjective and so jaded by your own personal experiences that you project that onto your teachings and the things that you talk about, right? So I think that you have to earn the right for people to value your opinion. I do think Ebro has earned that right. I think that his background with being a program director, host at Hot 97, now Apple Music, I do think that he's earned the right for people to value his opinion, but only certain people. People who find him to be wise or insightful or X, Y, Z. Everybody won't find him to be smart, intelligent, wise, or have good taste. So those people, you shouldn't value his opinion. If you think that everything he says, it never aligns with your opinions, or you don't at least understand where he's coming from, because again, I don't, there's people who I value their opinion, even if I disagree with them, I can see where they're coming from a lot of the times, or I can see the wisdom in what they're saying. But if I don't see that in somebody, no, I won't value their opinion. If I think they're too subjective, or if I just completely am disconnected with the things that they say, or I may not value them as a person. I may not like their morals or character or something like that, right? So it'll make me not value what they have to say. So I think find the people that you value their opinion. That's the most important thing I would tell people, how to navigate when it comes to media and journalism and podcasts and all of this social media mess, right? I think that is kind of what he's trying to get at. I think what he's trying to say is that his opinion is valuable because of his experiences, and fans, quote unquote, opinions are not as valuable as his, right? Because he's saying, oh, you don't know, you're just a fan, you're just a consumer, a customer. I know what I'm talking about, X, Y, and Z. And to a degree, he's right. He does know more than the typical person or the typical fan. And I do think that sometimes people need that reminder. Sometimes you'll see people's opinions and they need to be reminded, hey, you may not know what you're talking about. You may get online and you may say X, Y, and Z, or you may go in a barbershop and say X, Y, and Z about this artist or that artist. But in reality, you really don't have that deep of a knowledge of a genre of music, or how music works, or lyricism, or production, or BPMs, or the concepts of albums, or whatever the case may be. You may just spew out your opinion, and your opinion shouldn't be valued, right? Just because you're a fan doesn't mean you are, as a fan, entitled to your opinion, but it does not mean your opinion should be valued at all. So I get what he's saying from that perspective. Like, I get online, I see a lot of opinions, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think this person knows what they're talking about. I don't think they have any real insight or real knowledge. I don't think that they have a creative approach or a new approach. I think that it's just sheep, right? It is more so just followers than leaders. And I do think that those people opinions, I don't value their opinions. So yeah, I definitely understand what he's saying from that lens. Again, I just think more so his tonality and conviction here comes off as more of a arrogant or like entitled or main character type situation. That is what I disagree with him about. Um, I definitely disagree with telling your own audience that their opinion doesn't matter, but your opinion does matter, right? But in regards to does the average person know what they're talking about? Who knows, right? Some people really are engulfed in music and they are real listeners and reviewers and they really can intake the art of music, and some people are just surface level, don't know what they're talking about listeners. And there are a lot of listener issues out there, not so much artist issues, but listener issues, and I do, you know, hear those people's opinions on a jaded or on a curved angle, right? So I do agree with him from that sentiment, right? But I don't necessarily know if I think again this is coming off the back of the Drake backlash, and I don't know if now is the time for him to say this, right? Like just because people disagree with your take or something that you said, that is why it comes off as arrogant. It's like you made a public statement, people disagree, and now your rebuttal is like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. That's pretty much it. That's where I feel like he's going wrong, right? If anything, maybe try to educate or enlighten people. And again, I guess he tries to by saying he doesn't view it as hip hop and X, Y, and Z. And again, he compared it to the Lauryn Hill situation, blah blah. But I don't know. That I think that is more opinion based. Um, I think, in my subjective opinion, I don't think that Drake, like when I hear "Take Care," that does sound more like a "Take Care" sounds more like a R&B album, but he's rapping on the album as well. He's literally singing and rapping on the album. To me, So Far Gone, similar. Nothing was the same. Similar. Nothing was the same to me is more hip hop than R&B. But yeah, I mean, again, I think my rebuttal to, I do understand what Ebro is saying, but my rebuttal to him would be that if we embrace somebody as a hip hop artist and we embrace the fact that they can rap and they can sing, uh, that doesn't necessarily equate to now their albums aren't hip hop albums, right? Like it would be no difference if Drake wasn't singing on his hooks. Instead, he was getting whoever Usher to sing on his hooks. Would that now mean that it's a hip hop album because Drake is rapping and he has singers on his hooks? Is it because that Drake is singing and rapping that makes him like less hip hop? You know what I mean? I don't know. That doesn't really make much sense to me. But we'll see. Um, Shout out to Nadeska. If you watch this, I agree with Nadeska like 99% of the time. I think she's an amazing journalist. She always has good takes. She's a real leader, never a follower in her takes. She stands on what she thinks, and it's always a good creative approach. I really shout out to Nadeska. I really love her. But the last point I'll make about this Ebro situation is that this kind of piggybacks off of the main character syndrome. You know, I think sometimes media people think that we are bigger than we actually are, uh, or that we matter in this equation. The equation of artists and plus their fan base equaling that artist's success or career or whatever. Don't get me wrong, industry, games, and media plays a part in this, but the two people that matter in any business model or any art model, any entertainment model is the artists and their fans. That is the most important thing. And that kind of goes off what I talked about my J. Cole media discourse thing, where I'm like, there are people who are vehemently letting you know they are not J. Cole fans, but they are also trying to control the narrative or make their opinions so abundantly heard, which doesn't make sense to me, right? The same way I compared it to, I'm not a Tyler the Creator fan, so I'm not the target audience. I'm not the demographic. Any business model, there's the business and then there's the demographic and the target audience. That is what's most important. People like me who are not in that demographic or that target audience, I can have my opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion, but my opinion is it doesn't hold as much severity or significance because it is not for me. I'm not the consumer of it. So the same way he said on this video, oh, you guys are just a customer, just a consumer. If I'm not a consumer or a customer of somebody or something, then I can really care less about what they're doing. But more importantly, my significance is decreased because I'm not the customer, I'm not the consumer, right? So if you are not a fan of somebody, and you're not the customer, you're not the supporter, you're not the consumer, then I do think your opinion, you have the right to have an opinion, but it doesn't matter that much, to be honest. My opinion on Vince Staples or Tyler the Creator, people I don't like or listen to, my opinion doesn't matter that much, right? I'm going to say my opinion, but it doesn't matter in regards to if their fans like it. That is what matters the most. They need to focus on their fans. They need to make their fans happy. That's what's important for them to do, right? And if anything, like for example, if Tyler the Creator drops an album and I did a review, I would only be doing a review not because I like him, but because his fan base is so big and he has so many supporters and they hype him to such a level that it forces me to then go listen to the album, right? And that is a byproduct of him and his fan base being in alignment and on the same page. And now it makes other people want to tune in and listen. You know what I mean? So that's just how I look at it. You know, artists need to focus on their fan base, and fan base need to focus on their artists. And you can listen to whoever else you want to and have your opinions, but do recognize that your opinion isn't as significant. I'm not a Cowboys fan. My opinion on what the Cowboys need to be doing, it's not as important as a true Cowboys fan. You get what I'm saying? So that's just my outlook on it. But also to go to further my last video about what it means to be a journalist and how it works in X, Y, and Z. I'm going to give you guys some insights to how, and this kind of touches what we're saying right now, like with the media and things like that. Media can have a role in these situations, in a good or a bad way, right? But people, when you read articles and you formulate your opinions based upon articles, realize that oftentimes they can be jaded. You guys know I hang my hat on objectiveness. That's my favorite word. I am an objective reporter. I give information and that is it. I'm not telling you guys my opinion. If I'm writing an article, I'm not telling you guys my opinion on what you should think, or I'm not trying to make you think this way or think that way or like something or hate something. I'm just telling you the information. For example, me personally, I'm a huge J. Cole fan. My favorite rapper. The song What If on The Fall Off, I think is whack. If I'm writing a review on The Fall Off, I'm going to tell you, okay, on the song What If, he raps from the perspective of Tupac and Biggie. I'm not going to say J. Cole raps from the perspective of Tupac and Biggie and we didn't need this and it's super whack, even though I love J. Cole. That is just me giving my subjective opinion. That's not me just objectively telling you the information and letting you formulate your own opinion on the song, right? So I hang my hat on being objective. However, a lot of times when you see articles, they're supposed to be objective, but the way that it's pitched to them is not even objective. So therefore, again, I told you guys in my last video about media darlings, relationships matter. So when you have, if an artist has a good PR team who has good relationship with blogs and journalists, good relationship with podcasters, good relationship with radio people, if they are sending out press releases that are strong and convincing to make you want to write about it, if they are inviting you out to events and making journalists want to talk about certain artists or winning journalists over, all of that goes into it, right? So, for example, this is a press release that I received. I put it in a PDF document. I blacked out the name, so, just out of journalistic ethics. But for example, hey, I got invited to a show. This was a while ago. This is probably like 3-4 years ago. Invited to a show for a new R&B artist. Then it was followed by all of his accomplishments and everything he's done. That's great. X, Y, and Z. Like, ooh, he can dance. R&B sensation. He's worked with this person, Billie Eilish. He was on this show. He was on that movie. He did this and that, all this good stuff, right? So you know, this is this press release is informative for me. So now, if I was to go to write an article about this, I have more than enough information to talk about this person. But at the same time, say I didn't know this artist at all, this is a great job. This is a great press release, but it also could be subjective or convincing me to write about somebody who I may not care about, or I may not know about, or may not really have any interest in. I may be oversold it. This press release potentially, it wasn't. The artist was good, but this could be a great press release for a bad artist, or an artist that is just mediocre, or an artist who I don't even truly believe in. And then I take this information, then I go write about it in an article, and I put all the similar stuff in my article that sells now the reader on this artist, right? And that is how it works, right? And on the flip side, this is an example of when I got a press release about an artist who was having some legal troubles, right? And as you can see, it was saying, and this was interesting because academics talked about, potential hate campaigns that he was paid for, or people were trying to pay him to hate on ASAP, and somebody else, I think Travis. And then similar, we saw J. Cole's manager say the same thing about he heard that people were getting paid to hate on J. Cole, do smear campaigns and X, Y, and Z. And it is true. That does happen 1,000%. Like the same way you can press the button and put a positive press release out to 100 bloggers at once, you can put out a negative press release on somebody at one time. Like this, I've seen both sides. This is an example of that. And I do believe the J. Cole one. I think you can look at people like Charlemagne, and I think he's clearly, something is off there. But for example, a lot of the reporting so far has been pretty negative given the nature of the allegations. Many people in the industry feel the scrutiny is warranted. This is a violation. This should not be put into the article, into the press release, right? Like this is clearly trying to convince me, hey, this R&B singer has these cases going on, and people in the industry feel like the scrutiny and the bad press is good or it's warranted. Therefore, telling me essentially to continue that. You know what I mean? Which I didn't do it. I didn't write this piece, but you know, it was distasteful. It was wrong, but this is how it works. You know, if there's a viral thing going around, or if they want to put out a bad press release on a artist, or a bad album review or something, they'll say this. They'll put out where they're saying, hey, yeah, other writers, other bloggers are scrutinizing this, and they're saying it's warranted. This is what the industry says. When they say something like the industry, that's kind of letting you know, hey, this is what the industry, quote unquote, the industry is doing. You may want to get on board, or you may not want to go against that, or whatever the case may be. Or this is an easy thing to write about, pick up some clicks and some views, or whatever, So it's like, this is how it works. The same way, this is just them trying to convince me to write something that in a subjective manner. The same way inviting me to the show may win me over, right? So that is just me. I just wanted to give you guys some insights to how that works. And yeah, it's a crazy game out here, man. It's a crazy game when it comes to this media and this journalism stuff. And we've seen it in such a frenzy after the whole Kendrick and Drake and Cole battle. And it has been one of the most nasty, disgusting things that I've seen. People trying to control narratives, control media. I saw recently Michael Eric Dyson, who I respect a lot. He had mentioned how he felt about the Kendrick and Drake battle. I think he had some valid points. I didn't fully agree with him, but I think he had valid points and points that I thought didn't make sense. But for the most part, I probably didn't agree with him. But I respect him overall. But I know he said that he had got a call from Jay-Z and all this other stuff, blah blah. And some people can look at that as trying to control the narrative. Like, okay, you're getting called around Mark Lamont Hill mentioned the same thing, like, oh, he got a call when he spoke on Jay-Z or whatever. So people try to control narratives. I can't say that that's a good or bad thing, because I mean, if I was a rapper and I knew people, if I knew somebody went around and said something about me that I disagreed with, and I could correct them on, I might do the same thing, right? So, but just so people know, like, these things happen. These type of press releases, good and bad, go around. Industry conversations go around. Industry emails go around. Phone calls get made behind the scenes. People get invited to events, and that dictates or jades how they want to write about stuff. Where you live at, you know what I mean? If you live in a certain area, you want to be on a good side of people in that area. So all of these things go into it. So again, just be mindful of what you're seeing. Find people that you find to be credible. Find people that you find value in what they're saying, and that is the way to go about it, guys. So until next time, you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with Ebro? One, on does Drake have any classic hip hop albums? Two, how do you feel about Ebro stating, that you guys as customers should not have an opinion, or you don't know what you're talking about? If you agree or disagree with him. And yeah, you guys let me know. And who are some people that you really value their opinions? Before I go, people I think you should value. I think Nadeska is amazing. I think Nadeska is amazing. I think Rob Marketing is really good. Those are two people that come to my mind off back, but I'll try to find some more people that I think you guys should really tune into from my journalistic perspective. But yeah, until next time, guys.